The thing about high school is, if you're openly gay, people either treat you like you're a walking pride parade or like you're contagious. I got the latter. Lucky me. Not that I cared. Well, okay, I cared a little. But sarcasm is cheaper than therapy, so I usually just went with that. Take Jace Carter, for example. Star athlete. Broody. Cocky smirk that looked like it had been surgically glued to his face. And apparently, a self-proclaimed homophobe at Jefferson High. The guy had his whole posse trained to snicker every time I walked by, like synchronized hyenas. Today's episode? They taped a rainbow sticker to my back that said property of Damien Vega. Real classy. I only noticed when half the cafeteria started snickering. I peeled it off, held it up, and deadpanned. Wow, free real estate? Should I start charging Damien rent? A few people laughed. Jace didn't. His jaw ticked like I'd just insulted his mother. Don't flatter yourself, Whitmore, Jace drawled, leaning back against the lunch table like he owned the whole damn school. Nobody wants your butt. Really? I tilted my head. Then why are you staring at it right now? The cafeteria oohed like it was an episode of Jerry Springer. Jace's eyes darkened, but before he could fire back, Damien Vega himself strolled over. Damien was Jace's perfect nightmare. Equally good at sports, actually liked people, and yeah, openly bisexual. He leaned against the table opposite Jace, giving me a once-over that was way too obvious. You good, Eliot? Damien asked, ignoring Jace completely. Peachy, I said, though my voice cracked halfway, which ruined the effect. I added quickly, apparently, I'm your property now. Congratulations. I come with sarcasm and student debt. Damien chuckled. Could be worse. I've had worse offers. The cafeteria buzzed louder, and I swear I saw Jace's knuckles tighten against the table. His whole smug aura faltered for a second before he shot Damien a glare sharp enough to cut steel. Back off, Vega, Jace muttered. You don't get to touch what's not yours. Damien smirked like he'd been waiting for this. Funny, Carter. Didn't know you cared who touches Eliot Jace, only stared at me silently, the threat underlying before he and his friends left the cafeteria. And I let the sigh of relief escape my mouth, finally making Damien grin as he sat across me on the chair. Saved you yet again, Damien sassed, popping a French fry from my plate into his mouth. I could only lean back on the chair because I knew that Jace Carter wouldn't stop at once. An hour later, I was covered in glue. Not oops, a little craft glue, but full-on sticky, shiny nightmare glue that someone had thoughtfully poured over my backpack, hoodie, and, oh yes, my perfectly clean shoes. My eyes were watering, not from the adhesive, but from sheer fury. Really? I yelled, pacing in the deserted hallway. Really, Jace? Again? Of course, Jace wasn't anywhere to be seen. Because of course. He was smart enough to stay a few steps away, safe in his smug little narcissist bubble while his friends did his dirty work. I could hear muffled snickers from around the corner. Great! The Carter crew strikes again. It was mostly his friends this time. Lance had poured glue. Max had sprinkled glitter on top, and I swear, if one more speck lands in my hair, I might just combust. And then there was Jace, somewhere in the background, probably leaning against a wall with that smug grin, the one that said, I'm not touching this, but I get the glory of watching Eliot suffer. I shoved my backpack under the nearest locker and tried to wipe my hoodie free of glue. This is child's play, I muttered. Honestly, are you people 12? And then I felt it. That look. I didn't have to turn to know Jace was there. The smirk, the sharp eyes that made me want to punch him and punch myself simultaneously. You really are something else, he said finally, stepping into view. I mean, it's gross, honestly. He gestured vaguely at the glue. You exist, and somehow, I don't know, it's disturbing, but also, He trailed off, clearly trying to recalibrate. Whatever. Kid stuff. My friends just thought it'd be fun. Fun? I repeated, incredulous. You think covering me in glue is fun? Really mature, Carter. Really. I didn't even touch it, he cut in sharply, his voice laced with irritation. There it was. The pride, the narcissism. I'm straight. I'm perfect. I can't like this gay kid in front of everyone defense. But his eyes flicked down to mine just for a second too long. That little falter. That's what I lived for. I smirked despite myself. Sure. Totally innocent, I brushed more glue off, flicking it onto his expensive sneakers just to watch. Him flinch. You're disgusted by me, right? But you can't stop watching. His face darkened, jaw tight. Shut up. He didn't like it when I pointed it out, and that only made it funnier. Look, theater freak, I don't have to explain myself to you. Just don't make me laugh, or You'll what? I teased. Glue me again? Or maybe drag me into one of your little straight boy superiority games? He froze. Of course, he would freeze. Because he had a facade, and every time I poked it, every sarcastic remark I made, it cracked a little, and it infuriated him that I could see it. Then he stepped closer, and just like that, the battle shifted. There's a party this weekend, he said, voice low, clipped, and annoyed. You're coming. I raised an eyebrow. I'm not going to your stupid frat wannabe nightmare. No way, you're coming, he said again, this time leaning in, tone sharp and cold. Or my friends, he gestured vaguely at his snickering cronies, will make you regret not showing up. And trust me, Eliot, you don't want to see what they can do when I say nothing. So, you'll come. That's final. I opened my mouth to argue, but knew I had no choice. This was Jace's world. He always got what he wanted, whether through his friends' pranks, his smirk, or his terrifyingly sharp temper. And yes, as much as it annoyed me, that little falter in his pride every time I got under his skin made me, well, more aware of him than I wanted to admit. Fine, I muttered through gritted teeth. I'll go. But if one glue stick or glitter tube touches me, I swear. Good, he said, smirking, and walked away before I could finish. The smug, proud, slightly homophobic bastard. I should have hated him more. But instead, I just groaned, knowing that the weekend was going to be absolute hell. And that was exactly what I needed. The perfect setup. The weekend of the house party. The moment I walked into Jace Carter's house, I regretted all life choices that had led to this. The living room smelled like a frat house had exploded. Beer cans rolled across the floor like tumbleweeds, and the bass from the stereo was so loud it made my chest vibrate in sync. Every wall was covered in neon lights and streamers, like someone had tried to make a nightclub out of a suburban ranch house. I spotted Jace immediately, leaning against the staircase railing, arms crossed, smirk practically glowing in the dim light. He looked like he owned the place, and everyone in it. His friends milled around him, the usual assortment of guys who claimed to hate faggots and flamboyance, but apparently enjoyed tormenting me for sport. I gritted my teeth and tried not to roll my eyes too obviously. Hi, people who hate me, I muttered under my breath, adjusting the strap of my bag. One of Jace's goons smirked. Eliot Whitmore. Took you long enough to show I smiled faintly. Wouldn't want to ruin your well-rehearsed theater hall prank vibe before the main event. Shut up and grab a drink, one of them barked. I glared. Excuse me, sir, I prefer my sarcasm served neat. Damien was already there, leaning casually against the fridge, drink in hand, looking way too pleased with himself. His eyes found mine immediately, a glint of amusement flashing across them. I gave a tiny, timid wave, and he smirked. Clearly, he was enjoying the chaos unfolding between me and Jace. And then, because parties always come with a terrible sense of timing, Someone suggested a game of truth or dare. "Oh no," I whispered. "No, just no, but of course." It was too late. A circle formed in the living room, drinks in hand, laughter filling the air, and just like that, the spotlight found me. "Eliot Whitmore!" Truth or dare? One of Damien's friends, a kid with far too much confidence and not enough sense, yelled. I hesitated. My mind raced. Dare. Truth. Dare. Truth. I picked dare, because clearly I like danger, or stupidity, or both. The room hummed with energy. Someone grinned devilishly. "I dare you to kiss Jace Carter." Silence fell. My mouth went dry. My eyes snapped to Jace, who froze mid-step, one eyebrow cocked, his smirk faltering like the perfect mask had cracked for a second. Then, as if reading my mind, or maybe his ego was reading the room, Damien stepped forward. "Or you could kiss me instead," he said smoothly, tone casual but lethal. "And get it over with. You know, don't trigger the guy with homophobia." My jaw dropped. Seriously? Did he just offer himself? I could almost hear the collective gasp from the circle, half impressed, half scandalized. Damien's smirk widened as his eyes flicked over Jace. "It's fine, Jace. I won't let your homophobic ass be triggered. You can step back and..." That was the mistake. Jace went red, not a little. Blush, not a flustered pink. Tomato red, vein-popping, apocalyptic red. His jaw clenched, eyes darkening, and for the first time that night, his cool, broody exterior crumbled like a sandcastle under a wave. "Step back?" he growled. "Step back? Who the hell do you think you are, Vega?" I barely had time to react. Before I could even step forward toward Damien, because, okay, maybe part of me was still flustered and confused, Jace yanked me by the wrist. I stumbled forward, heart slamming into my ribs, and the next thing I knew, his lips were on mine. Sharp, hot, unexpected. Shocked gasps erupted from the circle, echoing off the walls like a tiny stampede. My brain short-circuited. My arms flailed awkwardly before I managed to shove him back, coughing, trying to find words that wouldn't make me sound like a fool. "Whoa, buddy. This is wrong," I stammered, eyes wide. Jace's face was still red, but his hands flexed at his sides like he wasn't sure whether to hit something or disappear. He muttered something under his breath, curse words mostly, then stormed off toward the staircase, leaving the room buzzing, Damien smirking, and me standing there like a live-action meme. I clutched my bag like a lifeline, blinking rapidly. Did that just happen? Damien shrugged. "Well, that was intense. You okay?" "Yeah," I croaked, voice shaky. "Perfectly fine. Totally fine. Absolutely nothing weird is going on." "Nope." "Sure," he said, raising an eyebrow, clearly not buying it. "Just, you know, sometimes these parties get a little wild." I wanted to agree. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to leave. Mostly, I wanted to sit down and breathe without thinking about how Jace's lips had been pressed to mine like some kind of cosmic joke. But the party went on. Drinks spilled. Music thumped. People screamed and danced. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew the real chaos had only just begun. Next day, I woke up the next morning with my brain straight, recalling the previous night. Ugh, God, why me? My phone buzzed incessantly. Texts, snaps, notifications, and the first one I opened, a simple, infuriating message from Jace Carter. "Forget that kiss happened." Huh. I zeroed my gaze at the text and scoffed. "Sure, Carter. I will gladly wipe off the memory if only the school would let us forget." At school, I could practically see Jace's smug facade cracking. The pride, the homophobia, the very carefully constructed "I'm too straight to even care" armor. The part that had me grinning like a maniac was that he couldn't stay mad and couldn't stop thinking about it either. And now, The school hallways would be the battlefield. Of course, Damien wasn't making it easier. He leaned against my locker, smirking as if he'd single-handedly won the fight for my attention. "Looks like Carter finally has a realization," he teased, tapping his chin. "So, feelings yet?" I shoved him lightly, cheeks heating. "Keep your mouth shut. You're lucky I don't know, glitter bomb you next." Damien only laughed, clearly enjoying the chaos. And why not? It wasn't every day you got to watch Eliot Whitmore make a narcissistic, homophobic jerk named Jace Carter melt in confusion. Across the hall, I saw him, Jace. He froze mid-step, eyes locking with mine, sharp, tense, and, I swear, trembling with all the fury he refused to admit. He didn't move when someone bumped him, didn't glance at his friends, just stared. I smirked, leaning casually against my locker. "You gonna keep staring? Or are you finally going to admit that your precious straightness might be complicated?" He grunted, faced a storm of pride and disgust, and stalked away, but not before bumping into someone and nearly falling. Classic Carter. A week later. The next few days were a mix of chaos and tension. Jace would pass by my locker, lingering just long enough to make me fume, but always too proud to say anything. His friends started whispering as Jace forbade them to pull any prank on me, and now they were trying to gauge if he liked me, or if the kiss had broken him. He, of course, denied everything, sneered at me, and acted like I was just another theater kid he had no interest in. Meanwhile, Damien continued to tease, sometimes showing up in the cafeteria just to see Jace's reaction when I laughed at a joke he made. And every single time Jace's nostrils flared, jaw clenched, and I could see the internal war between his self-claimed homophobia and the pull he felt toward me. And of course, every time I teased Jace, I could feel it. The way he hated it. The way he couldn't look away. The way he faltered. My smirk grew with every subtle victory. But the tension wasn't all laughs. One day, Damien cornered me in the hallway again, voice low, teasing. "You know, Carter's acting weird. Obsessed almost. Maybe he likes you and doesn't want to admit it." I snorted. "Yeah, sure. And the earth is flat." Damien leaned closer, eyes sharp. "No, seriously. Watch him around you. The way he tenses, the way he snaps at everyone but you, it's something." I couldn't help but feel a little thrill. Someone noticing the chaos I'd caused. Someone seeing through Jace's polished, narcissistic, homophobic armor. And I knew it was only going to get messier, because Jace Carter didn't back down from challenges. He didn't admit weakness. And now, after that kiss, that accidental, shocking, horrifying, thrilling kiss, there was a new game between us. One filled with sparks, misunderstandings, and tension. I couldn't wait to see what would happen next. Another week later, high school had a funny way of stretching misery into art. And Jace Carter? He was the masterpiece I couldn't stop staring at, even when I hated him. I rounded the corner to the cafeteria, backpack digging into my shoulder, only to nearly collide with him, of course. He was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, eyes sharp and scanning the crowd like he owned it. When they landed on me, I felt the familiar mix of irritation and something else. My chest tightened, and I resisted the urge to smirk. "Careful," he muttered, voice low, clipped, almost a warning. I raised an eyebrow. "Or what? You'll glue my backpack to the floor?" He scowled, a quick, sharp movement, his nostrils flaring. He hated this. I could see it in every stiffened muscle, every narrowed eye. He wanted to intimidate me, but the truth was written all over him. He couldn't look away. I sauntered past, deliberately slow, enjoying the tiny jolt in his posture as I brushed by. The cafeteria buzzed around us, but for some reason, the world narrowed to Jace Carter's hard jawline and the faint twitch of his fingers. "You're really testing me," he said, voice low enough that only I could hear. "Oh, I'm testing myself too," I replied with a smirk. Seeing how long you can stand looking at me before you implode." He let out a short, humorless laugh, and I caught that flicker in his eyes again. That almost imperceptible hesitation, pride battling curiosity, disgust wrestling with something unspoken. For the next few days, we played the same game over and over. A shove here, a glare there, a sarcastic comment from me, and a scowl from him. He would trip me in the hallway, or bump into my desk during class, acting casual but leaving traces of tension in the air. I'd return the favor subtly, throw a pencil down as he walked by, flick a bit of chalk dust at him, lean just slightly into his space when we passed in the halls. It drove him insane, and I loved every second of it. But it wasn't all fun. There were moments that made my stomach twist in ways that had nothing to do with sarcasm, like when I caught him staring at me from across the classroom, jaw tight, brows drawn together, eyes flickering just long enough that I could see the internal fight he was having. Pride, homophobia, something he couldn't or wouldn't admit. 5 days later, it was one hot afternoon. I was chatting casually with another guy in art class, helping him figure out a prop for a school project. Jace walked in at the exact wrong moment, and his face did that classic, over-the-top, I just swallowed a lemon look. Seriously? After Damayan, you found your next muse? His voice so sharp it made the pencil I was holding vibrate in my hand. I blinked again. Excuse me? He's just helping me with a prop. You're seriously overreacting. Overreacting? He went from purple to red to somewhere in a shade I didn't even know existed. Overreacting, he shouted. You're laughing. Ugh. He's probably flirting with you, isn't he? Wasn't Damon enough that now you are flirting with another? I snorted. Flirting? With me? Buddy, you kissed me like 3 weeks ago. You're the one losing it over literally nothing. About Damien, he is a friend. So don't you dare blame me for nothing. And why do you even care who I talk to? Do you like me or what? He flailed, pointing wildly. I'm not... Ugh! Look, stop talking! I pressed my lips, finding Jace hyperventilating. Jace, calm down. Take a deep breath. You're sweating, by the way. That's hilarious, I tried making a joke. He froze, looked down at his hands, and muttered, Why am I like this? It was perfect and terrifying. I realized I wasn't the only one confused about what had just happened. Over the next few days, misunderstandings piled up. Accidental touches, check misread texts, check I hate you, sarcastically commented. Check every time I laughed at his panicked expressions. His eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite name. I teased, he panicked. He denied, and I egged him on. And through it all, I kept one rule firmly in place. Never, ever forget he had spent 2 years making my life a living hell. Yet somehow, he made it impossible to look away. Yet 2 weeks later, I never thought I'd say this, but I kind of missed the days when Jace only shoved me into lockers. At least back then, I knew the rules. He hated me. I hated him. And the whole school acted like it was background entertainment. Now, the rules were gone, replaced with awkward hallway brushes, weirdly long stares, and text messages at 2 a.m. that started with, "Don't tell anyone I texted you," and ended with, "What's your favorite movie?" I wanted to laugh. I wanted to throw my phone against the wall. I wanted to text him back with the longest, most sarcastic monologue of my life. But instead, I just typed, "Rocky Horror." Why? 3 minutes later. Figures. You're a freak. 5 minutes after that, but like, in a good way. Yeah, my bully was texting me compliments, secretly, and I hated how much I kinda liked it. Still, I wasn't about to forget 2 years worth of humiliation. The glue-on chair incident, the fake love note prank, the time he and his goons switched my audition music to polka. I wasn't stupid. I knew better than to let myself fall for him. But then he showed up outside the theater rehearsal the next day, pretending he just happened to be passing by. His face softened just a little when I walked out, and when his hand brushed mine as he handed me a water bottle, like it was totally casual, I felt my chest do something it absolutely shouldn't. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was imagining it. But late at night, when the texts kept coming, I wasn't so sure anymore. 4 days later, I was hanging out in the courtyard, joking around with Leo, one of the stage crew guys. We were laughing about some ridiculous backstage disaster when suddenly I felt the air shift. You know that moment when a thunderstorm is about to crack open the sky? Yeah, that was Jace stomping toward us. "What's so funny?" he snapped, glaring at Leo like he'd just confessed to murder. I blinked. A broken fog machine, actually. Not that it's any of your business." Leo looked between us, clearly sensing danger. I'll just go." "Yeah, you better," Jace muttered, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. "Excuse me?" I stood, arms crossed. "What's your problem?" "He's my friend. He was flirting with you," Jace shot back. "Here we go again," I mutter under my breath before sparing him a nonchalant look. "You're seriously losing it, Jace." "I'm not losing it." His voice broke, high and panicked. Look, you don't get it." "No, Jace," I said, suddenly colder. "I don't get it. Because months ago, you were calling me a freak in front of everyone. You made sure the whole school laughed at me every chance you got. And now you're acting like you get to... What? Claim me? You don't. Remember, you're homophobic? Not gay?" That hit him, hard. His face crumpled for half a second before he covered it with anger. I'm not gay, okay?" The words sliced through me like glass. I shoved past him, ignoring the way his voice cracked behind me. "Then stop reacting like you are." And for the first time, I left Jace standing speechless. A few days later, I avoided him for 3 days, which doesn't sound like much, but in high school time, that's practically 3 years. I didn't look his way in the halls, didn't respond to his late-night texts, which went from "hey" to "please answer" to "I'm sorry" in the span of 12 hours, and pretended he didn't exist. And for the first time in forever, Jace looked lost. No cocky smirk, no loud laugh, no smug taunts tossed across the cafeteria. He sat slouched in the corner, staring at the floor like the world had tilted out from under him. And as much as I wanted to stay mad, something about it pulled at me. It wasn't until after rehearsal one afternoon after school that he cornered me. Not in the "ha-ha, let's shove Eliot into a locker" way. More like trembling hands, red eyes, pacing in front of the empty stage until I finally sighed and asked, "What do you want, Jace?" He turned, and for once, the walls were gone. "I don't know how to do this," he blurted, words spilling out like he'd been holding them in for years. "I don't know why I said all that crap. I thought if I kept saying I wasn't gay, maybe it'd be true. But then that kiss happened and I can't stop thinking about it. About you." I blinked, thrown completely off balance. "I was a coward," he said, voice shaking. "I've been a coward for years." "You know why I bullied you? Because I liked you. I've liked you since freshman year, and it scared the hell out of me. So I made fun of you, called you names, acted like I hated you, because I thought if I made everyone else laugh at you, no one would look close enough to see me." He kept going, like a dam had broken. "You drive me insane. You make me laugh when I don't want to. You make me nervous. And yeah, I was a jerk. I was the biggest jerk. But I don't hate you. I think I actually like you." The theater was silent except for his ragged breathing. My heart was thumping so hard I was sure he could hear it. I should have laughed. I should have told him it was too late. But instead, my mouth betrayed me. "About time you admitted it," I said softly. His eyes widened. "Wait, what?" I smirked, stepping closer. "You're an idiot, Jace. A homophobic, insecure idiot. But maybe you're my idiot." The relief on his face was almost comical. He let out a shaky laugh, and when he leaned in this time, instead of kissing, I bumped my forehead with his, earning a scowl from him. "What? You thought I will let you kiss me? Earn it, Carter. I want you to come out as the real you, not a guy hiding behind homophobia and suppressing himself," I whispered, my eyes moving between his eyes and lips. "I dare you to kiss me in open." He seemed tempted to kiss me then and there, but I pulled away before exiting the theater hall until a stupid grin crept on my lips. It was real. Jace Carter liked me. 2 weeks later, I should have known Jace only acted on impulsiveness because after that confession, he was still reluctant to come out publicly and accept the true him. But he finally snapped. It was spring talent show. Jace had been around me, not close, but far, somewhere around, acting like a lost puppy. He wanted to claim me, but he didn't know how, and neither did I help him. It was his battle to fight, to accept the real Jace. I let him sulk, staring at me from afar, until a sophomore made the mistake of hitting on me backstage. Before I could even reply, Jace stormed up, grabbed my hand, and said loudly, his voice echoing as the mic was on, "He's with me." The auditorium went silent. Every head turned. Whispers exploded like fireworks. I swear even the principal leaned forward in her seat. I hissed, "What the hell, Jace?" He swallowed. Then, before I could drag him off, he squared his shoulders, looked right at the crowd, and said, "Yeah, I'm gay, and yeah, I like him." "Get over it, everyone!" the cheerleaders screamed. Someone in the back yelled, "Called it!" A few jaws hit the floor. And me? I just laughed. Because it was so absurd, so dramatic, and so him. Jace grinned stupidly, his friends hurling curses from the crowd for breaking their so-called anti-LGBTQ gang, but he minded none. Now, as per the challenge, I am going to kiss you. Here, right now. In front of everyone, Jace didn't give me time to think until he was cradling my face, and before I knew, his lips were on mine. The crowd erupted. Cheers, whistles, a couple boos, but mostly chaos. Jace was red as a tomato, but he grinned against my lips. When we pulled back, he whispered, "Guess the whole school knows now." I smirked. Good. "Saves me the trouble of writing it in the yearbook." He groaned, burying his face in my shoulder, but I could feel him smiling. And in that moment, surrounded by noise and glitter and absolute madness, I realized something. I dared my homophobic bully to kiss me. And he kissed me again. Not as a dare, not as a joke, but because he wanted me, because he chose me. And against every odd, that was the happiest ending I could imagine. Conclusion. 1 year later. It's been a year since the talent showcase heard around the world, or at least around our very small, very nosy high school. People stopped whispering eventually. Some still stared, some still asked stupid questions, but mostly, life moved on, and so did we. Now Jace walks beside me, holding my hand openly, no flinching, no looking over his shoulder like he expects someone to poke him for hiding behind homophobia for a year. But now Jace doesn't care. He owns himself like he should. But my man is still impulsive. Jeez. He still gets insecure sometimes, like when the barista at the coffee shop smiles a little too brightly at me. But instead of exploding, he just mutters under his breath until I tease him out of it. College is different. No one cares who's gay or straight or bi or whatever, which makes Jace laugh sometimes. "All that time I spent hiding," he said once, shaking his head. "And here, nobody gives a damn eye." squeezed his hand and told him, "Good thing you wasted your teenage angst on me. Otherwise, you'd be boring." He rolled his eyes, but he kissed me anyway. And here's the thing. I used to think Jace was my nightmare, the guy who made high school hell. But somewhere along the way, he became my safe place, my best friend, my boyfriend. So, yeah, I dared my homophobic bully to kiss me. And a year later, he's still kissing me. Sometimes too much, sometimes too sloppy, but always, always like he means it. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. The end. Who would you be more terrified to kiss? Your bully or your crush? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.